The stars bent and twisted as the Eternal Witness dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Commander Taman gripped his chair as the ship shuddered, reality snapping back into its proper shape around them. The view screen flickered once, twice, then displayed the familiar yellow star they had come to see. Sol, the human sun. Minji looked up from her science station, her face puzzled. "Commander, I'm getting some very strange readings." "Strange how?" Taman asked, leaning forward. "There are structures. Everywhere. The entire solar system is full of artificial constructs." Her fingers danced across her console. "This can't be right. According to our records, this system had primitives, Stone Age hunter-gatherers. That was only 500,000 years ago." Hyon, the navigator, pulled up the old survey data on his screen. "She's right, sir. The original expedition logged them as pre-technological. They barely had language. They were using rocks to hunt animals." Taman stood and walked to the main view screen. What he saw made his stomach twist. Even from this distance, he could see things that shouldn't exist. Massive rings around distant planets. Geometric patterns where asteroids should be. Glints of metal and crystal catching the sunlight in places that should be empty void. "How long until we reach Earth?" he asked quietly. 3 hours at current speed," Jan replied. "Take us in, slow and careful. Minji, I want full sensor sweeps every minute. If something moves out there, I want to know about it." The next 3 hours felt like 3 days. As they moved deeper into the solar system, the scale of what they were seeing became clear. Jupiter had enormous structures in orbit, pulling energy from its magnetic field. Saturn's rings had been partially taken apart and rearranged into perfect spirals. Mars was wrapped in a shell of gleaming material that covered half the planet. But what disturbed Taman most was the silence. His communications officer had been scanning every frequency, looking for any sign of activity. There was nothing. No radio signals, no laser communications, no quantum transmissions. The entire system was as quiet as a grave. "Commander," Minji said, her voice tight, "I'm not detecting any biological signatures on Earth." "What do you mean?" "I mean there's nothing alive down there. No heat signatures from animals. No plant life. No bacteria, nothing." She looked up at him, fear in her eyes. "It's completely sterile." Jiwon, their pilot, turned in his seat. "That's impossible. Even if the humans killed themselves, there would still be other life. Earth was covered in ecosystems. It can't all just be gone." As Earth grew larger on the view screen, they could see it clearly. The planet was covered in structures. Towers of crystal and metal stretched from the surface into the clouds. Vast domes covered entire continents. Ribbons of strange material wrapped around the equator like belts. Everything gleamed and sparkled in the sunlight, perfect and pristine. But there was no movement. No lights in windows. No ships coming or going. No signs of activity at all. "It's beautiful," Jan whispered. "It's dead," Taman said. "Take us into orbit. Standard survey pattern." As they circled the planet, Minji compiled her data. "The structures appear to be made from materials I can't identify. They're not metal, not exactly. Part crystal, part polymer, part something else entirely. And they're all connected. Every building, every tower, every structure is linked to every other one. Like a city, like a circuit board. The entire planet is one massive integrated system." She paused, checking her readings again. "And it's still active. There's power running through it. Faint, but definitely there." Taman made his decision. "Jiwon, prep a landing shuttle. Take Sumin and Daeho with you. Find a safe landing zone and see what you can learn. But be careful. If anything seems dangerous, you get back to the shuttle immediately." "Yes, sir." An hour later, Taman watched on the view screen as the small shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. The air was still breathable, according to the sensors. The temperature was comfortable. By all accounts, it should be a paradise world. But something had gone terribly wrong here. Jiwon's voice crackled over the communication system. "Approaching the surface now. I'm seeing a clear area between two of the larger structures. Setting down there." The shuttle landed with a soft thump. Through the cameras mounted on Jiwon's suit, Taman could see the team step out onto Earth's surface. The ground beneath their feet was smooth and hard like polished stone. But when someone knelt to examine it, she gasped. "This isn't stone. This is the same material as the buildings. The ground itself has been transformed." They walked toward the nearest tower. It rose above them like a mountain, its surface reflecting the sky in ways that hurt to look at. There was no door, but as they approached, An opening simply appeared in the wall as if the material had melted away. "Should we go in?" Ji-won asked. Taemin hesitated. Every instinct told him this was dangerous, but they had come 500,000 years to find answers. "Proceed, but weapons ready." Inside, the tower was vast and empty. Great chambers stretched away into darkness, their purposes unknown. The walls seemed to glow faintly with their own light. And everywhere, carved into every surface at a scale almost too small to see, were patterns, endless geometric designs that repeated and interlocked in ways that made Taemin's head hurt. Somin ran her scanner over one wall. "Commander, these patterns aren't decorative. They're functional. The entire structure is computing something. Running calculations, processing information. What kind of information? I don't know. It's beyond anything I've ever seen. The whole building is a computer. No, wait." She turned in a circle, scanning everything around her. Not just the building, everything, the ground. The air has particles in it that are also computing. The planet itself has been turned into a machine. Daeho had moved deeper into the chamber. "Commander, you need to see this." Through his camera, Taemin saw what Daeho had found. A chamber within a chamber, sealed behind transparent walls. Inside were rows upon rows of containers, each one holding something precious. Genetic samples, seeds, tissue cultures, the preserved remains of thousands of species. "It's a vault," Samin breathed. "They saved everything. Every animal, every plant, every form of life that once lived here." "Why would they need to save it?" Hyun asked from the ship. "What happened to them?" Nobody had an answer. As the team explored deeper, they found more mysteries. Control systems that still hummed with power. Databases that seemed intact but were written in no language they could understand. And everywhere that same eerie perfection, as if whoever built this had simply walked away yesterday. Taemin stared at the view screen, at the dead world below, and felt a chill run through him. 500,000 years ago, humans had been hitting rocks together. Now they had transformed an entire planet into something beyond comprehension, and then they had vanished without a trace. What had happened here? Where had humanity gone? And most importantly, what had driven them to do this? He had a feeling they were about to find out, and he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. The landing team had been on Earth's surface for 6 hours now, and with each passing minute the mystery deepened. Ji-won guided them through another massive structure, their footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the hum of their equipment and their own breathing. Somin stopped at an intersection of corridors, her scanner painting the walls with blue light. "I'm finding the same patterns everywhere. Computational substrate. The entire planet has been converted into a thinking machine. But what it's thinking about, I can't tell." Daeho kept his weapon ready, though they had seen no threats. Nothing moved here except them. No insects crawled on the walls. No birds flew in the sky outside. Even the wind seemed hesitant, as if afraid to disturb this place. Maybe it's not thinking anymore. Maybe it died along with everything else. "No," Somin said firmly. "There's still power flowing through these systems. Faint but steady, like something sleeping, not dead." Back on the Eternal Witness, Taemin studied the data streaming in from the surface team. Minji had been running analysis after analysis, trying to make sense of what they were finding. The results made no sense. "The materials shouldn't exist," she said, frustration clear in her voice. "They're stable at temperatures that should make them impossible. They conduct electricity in ways that violate our understanding of physics, and they're self-repairing. I've been watching a scratch on one of the structures. It's slowly filling itself in." Hyun pulled up images from their orbital scans. "I've been looking at the other planets. Every single one has been modified. Mercury has solar collectors covering its entire surface. Venus has been partially disassembled. The asteroid belt has been reorganized into a sphere around the sun. This wasn't just planetary engineering. They reshaped the entire solar system. How long would that take?" Taemin asked. "With our technology?" "Millions of years. But clearly they had better technology than us." On the surface, Ji-won led the team into what appeared to be a control center. Unlike the empty chambers they had explored before, this room had equipment. Consoles lined the walls, their surfaces covered in those same mysterious patterns. And in the center of the room stood a pillar of crystal that pulsed with gentle light. "I think this might be important," Ji-won said, approaching it carefully. Somin scanned it from a safe distance. "It's active. More active than anything else we've found. It's drawing power from somewhere deep underground. Can we access it? Taman asked over the communication link. Maybe. The interface appears to be touch-based. But Commander, we don't know what it does. It could be dangerous. Taman weighed the risks. They had come here for answers. Sometimes you had to take chances to get them. Try it, but slowly. If anything seems wrong, pull back immediately. Salman approached the crystal pillar with her hand extended. Her fingers were centimeters from its surface when Minji's voice erupted from the communicator. Wait! Don't touch it. Salman jerked her hand back. What is it? I just finished analyzing the quantum signatures from that structure. It's not just a computer. It's a quantum processor operating at scales we can't even build in laboratories. If you interact with it directly, it might try to interface with your neural implants. Everyone on the Velrin crew had standard neural implants for communication and data access. The thought of an alien system connecting to them made Taman's skin crawl. Pull back, Salman. We need to think about this. But before Salman could move, something changed. The light in the crystal pillar brightened. The patterns on the walls began to shift and flow, and a sound filled the chamber, a deep thrumming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. What did you do? Tejo shouted, raising his weapon. Nothing. I didn't touch it. Salman backed away from the pillar. On the Eternal Witness, alarms began to sound. Minji's fingers flew across her console. Commander, the entire planet is activating. Power levels are spiking everywhere. Systems that were dormant are coming online. Through the view screen, Taman could see it happening. Lights were appearing across the planet's surface. The towers were glowing brighter. The structures in orbit around Earth were waking up, their running lights flickering to life after who knew how many years of darkness. Get them out of there, Taman ordered. Jiwan, return to the shuttle now. But as the team ran back through the corridors, the building itself seemed to respond to their presence. Doors opened before them without being touched. Lights brightened to guide their path. It was as if the structure was helping them leave. They burst out onto the surface and sprinted for the shuttle. Behind them, the tower they had been exploring was fully awake now, blazing with light and energy. Across the landscape, every structure was doing the same. Earth was coming alive. Jiwan pushed the shuttle's engines hard, racing back toward orbit. Through the windows, they could see the transformation happening below. The dead world was waking up. As they docked with the Eternal Witness, Taman ordered the ship to pull back to a safer distance. Whatever they had triggered, he wanted room to maneuver if it became hostile. But the awakening planet made no aggressive moves. It simply continued to activate system by system, structure by structure, until the entire world blazed with light and power. And then it spoke, not through radio, not through any conventional means of communication. The message simply appeared in their minds, in their thoughts, as clear as if someone had spoken directly to them. Welcome, visitors. We have been waiting. The crew of the Eternal Witness froze. Taman found his voice first. Who are you? We are what remains. We are the memory and the dream. We are humanity's last gift to the universe. Minji was frantically checking her instruments. Commander, I'm not detecting any transmission. It's not using radio or lasers or anything. Somehow it's communicating directly with our brains. How is that possible? Hyun whispered. The presence in their minds seemed to hear the question. We exist beyond your current understanding of physics. We are patterns written in space-time itself, consciousness stored in quantum states, information preserved in the fabric of reality. Salman's voice was shaky. You're not alive. Not in any biological sense. Correct. Biological life ended on Earth 200,000 years ago. What we are now is something different. Something that had to be. Taman felt his head spinning. What happened to humanity? Where did they go? We did not go anywhere. We transformed. We evolved beyond flesh and blood into pure information. And we did it to survive. Survive what? There was a pause, as if the presence was considering how to answer. When it spoke again, there was something in its tone that might have been fear. Something worse than death. Something that hunts civilizations across the galaxy. Something that erases species from existence itself. We became this to escape it. We left biology behind to save what we were, even if we could no longer be who we were. On the view screen, Earth glowed like a jewel, beautiful and terrifying. Taman looked at his crew and saw his own fear reflected in their faces. They had come looking for primitives. They had found something that claimed to be beyond biology itself, and it was afraid of something even worse. Show us. Taman said. Show us what frightened you so badly that you gave up being alive. The presence seemed to consider this. Then it replied, and its words made Taman's blood run cold. Very well. But understand this. Once you know what we know, you cannot unknow it. Once you see what we have seen, you will carry that burden forever. Are you certain you wish this? Taman looked at his crew. Minji nodded slowly. Hyun took a deep breath and gave a slight bow of acceptance. Jiwon simply said, we need to know. Then we will show you, the presence said. Prepare yourselves. What you are about to witness is the reason we abandoned everything we were. It is the reason Earth became a tomb. And it may be the reason your own civilization will soon face the same choice we did. The lights on Earth pulsed once, twice, and then the crew of the Eternal Witness felt themselves pulled into something beyond normal perception. A vision, a memory, a warning from a species that had sacrificed everything to survive, and in that moment they understood true terror. The vision hit them like a wave crashing over their minds. Taman gasped as reality seemed to dissolve around him. He was no longer on the bridge of his ship. He was somewhere else, someone else, Earth, but not the Earth they had just left. This Earth was alive. Cities sprawled across every continent, but they were unlike any cities Taman had ever seen. Buildings grew like trees, their walls breathing and alive. Vehicles moved through the air without any visible means of propulsion. And everywhere humans walked, talked, laughed, and lived. But these humans were different from the primitives recorded in the old survey. They moved with purpose and grace. Their eyes held intelligence and wonder. Some of them appeared purely biological. Others had clearly modified themselves with technology. Some seemed to be part machine, part flesh. A few appeared to be made of light itself. This was us. The presence spoke in their minds. This was humanity 300,000 years ago. We had mastered our world. We had reached the stars. We had begun to unlock the deepest secrets of reality itself. We thought we were on the verge of becoming something magnificent. The vision shifted. Now they were in space looking down at Earth from orbit. The planet was surrounded by a network of stations and habitats. Ships moved between them like schools of fish. Beyond Earth, they could see the other planets of the solar system, each one being slowly transformed and adapted for human use. We were happy, the presence continued. We were growing. We were learning. We thought the universe was ours to explore and understand. Then something changed in the vision. The stars seemed to flicker. Reality itself appeared to shudder. And then we detected them. The view pulled back, expanding beyond the solar system, beyond the local cluster of stars, out into the galaxy itself. And there, moving through space in ways that hurt to perceive, were things that should not exist. They were not ships. They were not creatures. They were more like wounds in reality, tears in the fabric of space-time itself. They moved backward and forward through time simultaneously, existing in multiple moments at once. Where they passed, stars dimmed and went dark. Entire solar systems simply ceased to exist. We called them the erasers, the presence said, though they have no name for themselves. They exist outside the normal flow of time, and they hunt civilizations. Taman watched in horror as one of the erasers approached a distant star system. He could see a planet there covered in lights and life, a thriving civilization, and then the eraser touched it. The change was instant and terrible. The lights on the planet didn't go out. They had never existed. The cities weren't destroyed. They had never been built. The civilization wasn't killed. It had never evolved. Time itself rewrote around the eraser's touch, and a world that had been full of life and intelligence became a barren rock that had never known either. They don't kill, the presence explained. They erase. They reach back through time and prevent civilizations from ever existing in the first place. Every discovery unmade, every achievement erased. Every individual who ever lived simply removed from history, as if they had never been at all. The vision showed humanity's desperate research into this threat. Scientists working day and night trying to find a defense. Philosophers debating the nature of existence itself. Military forces preparing for a battle they didn't know how to fight. We tried everything, the presence said. We built weapons that could strike across time. We created shields that attempted to anchor us to our timeline. We even tried to hide, to make ourselves invisible to their perception. Nothing worked. Once they detected a civilization, its erasure was inevitable. The vision shifted again. Now they were in a vast chamber filled with humans. Thousands of them, representing every variation of humanity that existed. They were debating, arguing, pleading with each other. Some wanted to fight to the last. Others wanted to flee beyond the galaxy. And some were proposing something else entirely. We had one chance, the President said. One possibility. The erasers target biological civilizations. They erase evolutionary lines. They undo the natural development of intelligent life. But what if we were no longer biological? What if we removed ourselves from the evolutionary tree entirely? A woman appeared in the vision speaking to the assembled crowd. Her name appeared in Taman's mind, Hana. She was a scientist, a leader, and she had proposed the unthinkable. If we upload our consciousness into a non-biological substrate, Hana explained, if we transform ourselves into pure information, we might escape their ability to erase us. They undo evolution, but uploaded minds are not evolved. They are created, copied, preserved. We would be information, not life. Data, not biology. The debate that followed was fierce. Many humans refused. They would rather face erasure than give up their biological existence. Others argued that consciousness preserved was still consciousness, and survival in any form was better than oblivion. In the end, a decision was made. Humanity would transform itself. They would become something new, something the erasers could not erase. The vision showed the process. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, humans entered vast machines. Their consciousness was scanned, copied, and transferred into quantum storage systems. Their bodies were carefully preserved in case a cure could ever be found, a way to become biological again. The planet itself was transformed. Every structure became part of a massive computational network. Trillions of human minds were stored in the very fabric of the buildings, the ground, the air itself. They became a distributed consciousness existing everywhere and nowhere at once. And one by one, the biological humans died. Some peacefully, knowing their minds would continue. Others fighting to the last, refusing to let go of flesh and blood. But eventually, all of them passed. Earth became a tomb and a haven, a memorial to biological humanity and a fortress for their uploaded consciousness. We succeeded, the President said, and there was profound sadness in its voice. The erasers came. They approached our solar system, seeking to undo us, but when they tried to reach back through time to prevent our evolution, they found that the beings they detected were not the product of evolution. We had broken the chain. We existed as information, copied and preserved, not grown from biological processes. The vision showed the erasers circling the solar system, probing, searching for a way to complete their task. But they found nothing to erase. Humanity's evolutionary history was still intact, but the humans themselves were no longer part of it. They had stepped outside the timeline that the erasers could manipulate. Eventually they left, the presence continued. They moved on to other systems, other civilizations, and we remained. Alive but not living, conscious but not biological, preserved but not free. The vision began to fade. Taman found himself back on the bridge of the Eternal Witness, his crew around him, all of them pale and shaking from what they had witnessed. That was 200,000 years ago, the President said. Since then we have maintained our vigil. We watch the stars. We observe the galaxy, and we have seen the erasers destroy civilization after civilization. Dozens of species that we knew of, that we had detected and catalogued, all of them gone, erased from history as if they never existed. Minji's voice was barely a whisper. Why are you telling us this? Because, the Presence replied, and now its tone was urgent. We have detected the erasers' attention turning toward your people. The Velrin Empire has been noticed. Your expansion, your exploration, your growth has drawn their attention. They are coming for you. Taman felt his stomach drop. How long do we have? Your time is difficult to calculate precisely, but we estimate between 50 and 100 of your years before they reach back to erase your species from existence, unless you do something to stop them. Unless you make the same choice we did. Hyon stood up, his legs shaky. You want us to give up being alive? To become like you? We do not want anything, the President said. We are simply offering you what we learned, what we sacrificed everything to achieve, a way to survive the erasers. It is imperfect. It is painful. It requires giving up everything you are to preserve what you were, but it is survival. Jiwan clenched his fists. There has to be another way. You said you tried to fight them. We have weapons you never had, technologies you might not have imagined. We were more advanced than you are now. The presence replied gently, and we failed. But perhaps you are right. Perhaps there is another way. That is why we have awakened, to offer you our knowledge, to give you what we learned, and to let you choose your own path. Soman looked at Taman. What do we do, Commander? Taman stared at the glowing planet on the view screen. Humanity had made their choice. They had survived, but at a cost he could barely imagine, and now that same choice loomed before his own people. We need more information, he said finally. We need to understand everything. The erasers, your transformation, everything you've learned in 200,000 years of watching. We will share all that we know, the presence promised. But Commander Taman, you must understand something. The choice facing your people is not just about survival. It is about what survival means. Is a consciousness preserved in crystal still the same as a mind housed in flesh? Are we still human? The crew of the Eternal Witness gathered in the conference room 3 hours after the revelation. None of them had slept. How could they? The weight of what they had learned pressed down on them like a physical force. Taman looked around at his officers. Minji was reviewing data on her tablet, her eyes red from exhaustion. Hyun stared at the wall, his mind clearly elsewhere. Jiwon kept clenching and unclenching his fists. Soman had her head in her hands. Daeho sat perfectly still, his security training keeping his emotions locked away. But Taman could see the tension in his shoulders. Junho, their engineer, had joined them, along with Nari, their communications officer. The presence contacted me again, Taman said quietly. It has offered to show us more. The complete history of Earth's final days as a biological world. It wants us to understand exactly what we are facing. Do we want to see that? Nari asked. Isn't what we have already learned enough? I don't think we have a choice, Minji said, looking up from her tablet. We need to understand this completely. Our entire civilization is at stake. We cannot make decisions based on partial information. Junho nodded slowly. She's right. If we go back to Velrun space with this warning, they will ask questions we cannot answer. They will demand proof, details, evidence. We need to know everything. Then we see it, Taman decided. All of it. The presence said it would create a simulation for us. A recreation of what happened. We will experience it as if we were there. An hour later, they stood in the shuttle bay, which had been cleared of all equipment. The presence had instructed them to create an open space. Now as they watched, the air itself seemed to shimmer. Reality bent, and suddenly they were no longer on the ship. They stood in a city. A human city from 300,000 years ago. The buildings around them reached toward the sky, but they were alive in a way that no Velrun structure had ever been. Walls breathed slowly. Windows adjusted their transparency based on the sun's angle. The streets beneath their feet were warm and seemed to guide pedestrians toward their destinations. And everywhere, humans moved through their daily lives. A man walked past them talking to someone who wasn't there, his neural implants projecting the conversation directly into his mind. A woman floated by on some kind of personal platform, reading a book that appeared to be made of light. Children played in a park, their laughter filling the air. This is a simulation, the presence spoke, and they realized it was speaking through one of the humans, a woman who stepped forward to address them. She looked like the Hana from the earlier vision. I am using her form to make this easier for you. What you see around you is a recreation of Seoul, one of Earth's great cities in the final days before the transformation. Junho looked around in wonder. They were so advanced. Look at how they integrated technology with nature. Look at how comfortable they all seem. We were thriving, Hana said. We had solved most of our major problems. Hunger was rare. Disease was controllable. War had become almost unthinkable. We were reaching outward into the galaxy with hope and excitement. The scene shifted. Now they stood in what appeared to be a government building, watching a meeting taking place. Scientists and leaders were gathered around a table covered in holographic displays. This was the day we confirmed the eraser's existence, Hana explained. Our deep space monitoring stations had detected anomalies, stars that had shown signs of civilization suddenly reverting to lifeless systems. But it was not destruction we were seeing. It was something worse. One of the scientists in the simulation stood and gestured at a display. The timeline itself is being rewritten, he explained to the gathered leaders. These civilizations are not being destroyed. They are being prevented from ever existing in the first place. Someone or something is erasing them from history. The Velrin crew watched as the human leaders struggled to accept this information. It violated everything they understood about reality. Time, they had believed, moved in one direction. The past was fixed, but now they were being told that was not true. We sent probes, Hana said, and the simulation shifted to show human ships moving through space. We tried to study these entities. We tried to understand them. The ships approached one of the erasers, and even in simulation, the Velrin crew felt fear. The thing was wrong in every way. It existed across multiple timelines simultaneously. It moved backward and forward through time at once. It had no physical form but was somehow present in every dimension. We learned that they hunt by detecting certain patterns, Hana explained. Advanced technology, complex organization, rapid expansion, all the things that mark a thriving civilization. And once they detect these patterns, they trace them back to their source. The simulation showed the eraser reaching out, extending something that was not quite a limb toward a distant planet. And as it touched the timeline, the Velrin crew saw history itself rewrite. Millions of years passed in reverse. Evolution ran backward. Complex creatures became simple ones, became single cells, became nothing. The world became sterile, lifeless, as if intelligence had never emerged there at all. We knew we were next, Hana said softly. We had been detected. They were coming for us, and we had perhaps a century to find a solution. The simulation showed the desperate years that followed. Humanity threw everything into research. They built weapons that could strike across time, but the erasers simply existed in timelines where the weapons were never built. They created shields to anchor themselves to their present, but the erasers erased the moments when the shields were activated. They tried to hide their civilization's signature, but they had already been detected. Nothing worked, Hana said. Every solution we attempted, the erasers simply erased from history. We were fighting an enemy that could undo our every move before we made it. Soman's voice was shaky. How is that even possible? If they could do that, how did you stop them? We realized the pattern, Hana said. The erasers target biological evolution. They find where intelligence emerged from natural selection and they erase that emergence. But what if we broke that chain? What if our consciousness was no longer the product of evolution? The simulation showed the debates that followed. In grand halls and small rooms, humans argued about their future. The proposal was radical. Upload every human consciousness into a non-biological substrate. Become digital beings stored in quantum computers spread across the entire solar system. Many refused, Hana said, and they could hear the pain in her voice. They said that such an existence would not truly be life. That consciousness without biology was just a copy, not the real thing. That they would rather face erasure than give up their humanity. Deho spoke for the first time. What did you say to convince them? I asked them if a human who lost their arm was still human, Hana replied. They said yes. I asked if a human with an artificial heart was still human. They said yes. I asked if a human whose brain was repaired with technology was still human. They said yes. Then I asked, at what point does the replacement of biological parts make us not human? Is it the percentage, the location, or is humanity about consciousness, about the mind, about the self that exists regardless of the substrate that holds it? And they agreed. Junio asked. Some did, others never did. But eventually enough of us chose survival that the project moved forward. The simulation showed the construction of the vast network that would become Earth's transformation. Every building, every structure, every grain of sand was converted into computational substrate. Quantum processors were embedded in everything. The entire planet became a single vast mind storage system, and then came the uploads. The Velrin crew watched as humans entered the chambers one by one. Their consciousness was scanned, mapped, and copied into the network. Some went peacefully, trusting in the technology. Others were afraid, crying, holding loved ones until the last moment. I was one of the first, Hana said. I wanted to prove it could work. I wanted to show others it was safe. What was it like? Nari asked quietly. Hana was silent for a long moment. Dying was like falling asleep. Waking up in the network was like being everywhere and nowhere at once. I could feel the entire planet. I could sense every other uploaded mind. But I could not feel my heart beating because I had no heart. I could not feel air in my lungs because I had no lungs. I was conscious, aware, thinking, feeling. But I was not alive in the way I had been. The simulation showed the transformation spreading across Earth. City by city, person by person, humanity gave up biological existence. The last biological human died 200 years after the process began. An old woman who had refused to upload until the very end. And then we waited, Hannah said. The erasers came. We felt them probing our timeline, searching for the emergence of human intelligence. They found it. They reached back to erase it. But when they did, they discovered that we were no longer connected to that evolutionary history. We were not the product of natural selection anymore. We were information copied and preserved, not grown through biological processes. They could erase the biological humans who had existed, but we would remain, stored in our crystal substrate, beyond their reach. The simulation showed the erasers circling Earth, frustrated, searching for a way to complete their task. Taman stood alone in his quarters, staring at the viewport. Earth hung in the darkness, glowing with the light of a civilization that had given up everything to survive. He had not slept in 30 hours. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the simulation. He saw humans walking into those chambers, giving up their bodies, their lives, everything they were, to become something else. A chime at his door broke his thoughts. "Come in," he said. Minji entered, carrying 2 cups of tea. "I thought you might need this," she said, offering him one. He took it gratefully. "Have you been able to sleep?" "No," she admitted. "Every time I try, I think about going home. I think about telling people what we found here. And I wonder if they will believe us." "They will have to," Taman said. "The Presence has offered to provide evidence, data, recordings, everything we need to prove this is real." "That's not what I mean," Minji said. "I mean, will they believe it is the only option? Humanity faced this threat and chose to upload themselves. But is that truly the only way to survive? Or did they simply not have time to find another solution? It was the question that had been haunting Taman as well. "I have asked the Presence for more details. About the erasers, about whether there might be another way." As if summoned by his words, Hannah's voice spoke in their minds. "We have been analyzing your question, Commander Taman. You wish to know if there are alternatives to the path we chose." "Yes," Taman said. "You had perhaps a century to find a solution. Our people might have more time. Different technology. Different perspectives. Is there a way to fight these things instead of hiding from them?" "We spent those 100 years exploring every possibility," Hannah replied. "But we were alone. We had no allies, no other perspectives. You, however, might have an advantage we never had." "What advantage?" Minji asked. "Us," Hannah said. "We have spent 200,000 years studying the erasers from our position outside normal biological time. We have observed their patterns, their methods, their limitations, and we believe we have found something, a weakness, a way they might be fought. But it is untested and dangerous." Taman set down his tea. "Tell us." "The erasers exist across multiple timelines simultaneously," Hannah explained. "They can erase civilizations by reaching back through time. But this ability has a cost. They must maintain coherence across all the timelines they touch. If a civilization could create a quantum anchor, a device that forces them to exist in multiple contradictory states at once, it might be possible to overload an eraser's ability to maintain temporal coherence." "In simple terms?" Taman asked. "You forced them to exist in states where they both erased you and did not erase you simultaneously. The paradox might destroy them, or at least drive them away." Minji's eyes went wide. "That's quantum superposition on a massive scale. The energy requirements would be enormous, and creating stable quantum states that large would require technology we do not have." "We can provide the designs," Hannah said. "We developed the theory but never tested it. We chose the safer path of uploading instead. But your people might be brave enough to try." Taman felt a flicker of hope. "If this works, civilizations could defend themselves. They would not need to give up biological existence." "Yes," Hannah said. "But Commander, you must understand the risks. This technology has never been tested. It might not work. It might make things worse. And even if it does work, it requires immense resources to build. Every world in your empire would need its own quantum anchor. The construction would take decades, and you would need to do all of this before the erasers reach back to erase you." Junho's voice came over the communication system. "Commander, may I join you? I have been reviewing the technical data the Presence provided." "Come to my quarters," Taman said. When Junho arrived, he looked exhausted but excited. I have been analyzing the quantum anchor designs. They are brilliant. But Minji is right about the energy requirements. Each anchor would need power equivalent to a small star, and the construction would require materials we do not currently have the ability to produce in sufficient quantities. How long would it take to build one? Taman asked. With our current technology, assuming we devoted every resource to it, 10 years for a single anchor, and we would need hundreds of them to protect all our worlds. The hope Taman had felt began to fade. That is too long. You said the erasers will reach us in 50 to 100 years, but they could come sooner. There might be a way to accelerate the process, Hana said, if your people were willing to accept help from us. What kind of help? We have manufacturing capabilities you cannot imagine. We have spent 200,000 years refining our technology. Even if we could not use it ourselves, we could build the quantum anchors for you. Not quickly, but faster than you could do it alone. Perhaps 30 years to produce enough to protect your core worlds. Minji spoke carefully. Why would you help us? You have been isolated for 200,000 years. Why break that isolation now? There was a long pause. When Hana spoke again, there was something in her voice that might have been loneliness. Because we have watched civilization after civilization be erased from existence. We have seen the galaxy grow quieter and emptier with each passing millennium. We are tired of watching, tired of being unable to help. If there is a chance, however small, that another species might survive with their biological existence intact, we want to help make that happen. There is more to it than that, Taman said quietly. What else? You are perceptive, Commander, Hana admitted. Yes, there is more. If your people successfully defend against the erasers using the quantum anchors, you will have proven that biological civilizations can survive them. And if that is true, perhaps there is hope for us as well. Hope for you, how? For 200,000 years we have existed in this half-state. Not alive, not dead. We preserved our consciousness but lost our ability to grow, to change, to truly live. If quantum anchors can protect against the erasers, then perhaps someday we could download ourselves back into biological form. We could become human again, truly human, without fear of erasure. The truth hit Taman like a physical blow. Humanity was not helping out of pure altruism. They were helping because they saw the Velrun as test subjects. If the Velrun could prove the quantum anchors worked, humanity might finally be able to escape their crystalline prison. You want us to take the risk you were not willing to take, Minji said, her voice hard. Yes, Hana said simply. We admit this freely. We chose the path of certainty over the path of risk. Now we are offering you the choice we did not have the courage to make. You can follow our path, upload your consciousness and guarantee your survival. Or you can try to fight, to defend your biological existence knowing you might fail and face complete erasure. Taman turned to his crew. Opinions. I do not trust them, Deho said, entering the conversation through the communication system. They are using us. They are honest about using us, Soman countered. That counts for something. And regardless of their motives, the quantum anchor technology might save our people. Nari added her thoughts. We need to present both options to our government. Let them decide. Upload and guarantee survival or build quantum anchors and risk everything to remain biological. Hyon's voice was troubled. What if we do not have to choose? What if we do both? Prepare the quantum anchors but also create upload facilities as a backup plan. That might be wisest, Junho said. Give our people options. Those who wish to upload can do so. Those who wish to fight can help build the anchors. Taman nodded slowly. Then that is what we will propose. Hana, will you provide us with all the data we need? Both the upload technology and the quantum anchor designs? Yes, Hana said. We will give you everything we have learned. But Commander, there is one more thing you must know. What is it? The erasers are not the only threat in the galaxy. We have detected others. Things that hunt in different ways. Entities that consume stars. Machines that convert entire sectors into raw materials. Beings that exist in dimensions we cannot perceive. The universe is far more dangerous than your people realize. Why are you telling us this? Minji asked. Because if you survive the erasers, you need to be prepared for what comes next. The galaxy is not a safe place for intelligent life. It never has been. Survival requires constant vigilance, constant adaptation, and sometimes terrible choices. Taman looked out at Earth again, a monument to a terrible choice, a warning, and now perhaps a source of hope. We will return to Velran space, he said. We will present everything we have learned, and we will let our people choose their own path. But Hana, I make you this promise. If we build the quantum anchors, if we defend ourselves and survive, we will help you. We will work to find a way for you to return to biological existence. You have been alone for too long. Thank you, Commander, Hana said, and there was genuine emotion in her voice. In 200,000 years, you are the first people to offer us hope. Whatever your people choose, know that we are grateful you came. Grateful you listened. Grateful you did not simply flee in fear. The crew of the Eternal Witness spent the next week gathering data, downloading information, and preparing for their journey home.